Welcome today to the questions and answers for VitaLife Energy formulas and the followers of the VitaLife Energy program. Thank you all for being on and taking the time out to come on and have any questions answered for you with us. VitaLife Energy formulas does not treat, diagnose, cure, or profess a cure of any sort of disease. I'm going to start with a couple of good motivating and inspirational stories today from a couple of patients on the program that have had some remarkable changes. One was a lady I was talking to in Australia who had had like over 100 gallstones stuck in her gallbladder. This is like maybe 6 months ago, 8 months ago, she's been on the program. She went back and had, another ultrasound and had everything checked out. And the practitioner that was actually doing the ultrasound couldn't believe it, was in shock because there's only two little stones in the gallbladder where she had in her last ultrasound over 100 of them. She's been doing the treatment, that we recommend with the purification for those who might be interested in wanting to do the purification, which has been updated from Jeff and Elaine Campbell. It's been updated, the purification. So if any one of you are interested, please reach out to me afterwards and I can send you the updated purification. On the purification, it's taking 1 teaspoon of olive oil mixed with 1 teaspoon of lemon juice and drinking that first thing on arising, and then following with ginger and lemon tea with the natural hormone formula added to the ginger and lemon tea. Now, the reason I'm explaining that, or just using warm water and lemon after doing the olive oil and lemon juice. Now, of course, she's been doing that very regularly, consistently, even when she traveled recently, when she came to Mexico and she traveled to, different parts of the world. And she continually did that on her travels and with her program. And of course, she's got really remarkable results. The olive oil, as we all know, comes from the olive tree, olive leaf, olive oil, antiviral. Now with the lemon, it switches the pH in the mouth as well as in the stomach. And then the oil moves all the way through the entire small intestine, through following after with the warm water, lemon juice, and or ginger lemon tea with the natural hormone formula, which does have the selected herbs in that natural hormone formula. What happens is the lemon and the olive oil, olive leaf antiviral is the olive oil, and then the lemon switches the pH, and it's a form of calcium citrate. And when you follow with the ginger lemon tea that has the natural hormone formula in it, it gets the oil to move all the way through the entire small intestine and then through the portal veins, because it moves through the entire small intestine from the stomach, the duodenum, and then all the way through the entire small intestine to the cecum, ileum, and round to the large intestine. And then the portal veins from the descending side of the bowel actually sucks up some of that oil through the portal veins that connect directly back to the gallbladder. It's a very gentle on the liver and the gallbladder, but doing it consistently, as I was sharing the lady that's had the remarkable results with her ultrasound, and doing it consistently like she's been doing it for the last 6 to 8 months, and to get the results without causing any major painful movement of any stones being released through the gallbladder, releasing them. So it just takes time, but it's gentle. And then the herbal formula of the natural hormone formula, the licorice and the methionine potassium citrate with the red clover, the damiana, the saw palmetto, and those herbs will get through the entire intestinal area and stimulate the hormone production in the colon, where we make serotonin, melatonin, and dopamine in the ascending and transverse colon, along with the reproductive glands, the ovaries, the testes, and the male, to stimulate the cortisone in the adrenals from the hormone in the testes and also the ovaries, and uptake dopamine into the pituitary gland. And that's what that natural liver flush or gallbladder flush, very mild liver gallbladder flush is doing. So I wanted to share that with our starting of the meeting today, as I'm waiting for those to type in their questions today for the Q&A meeting. The other one I wanted to share, we just had somebody else have their baby recently, and both mum and dad were taking the program before the conception, and she had a home birth, and the baby was born within the 6-hour time frame. And we also have another lady that had a home birth, and the same thing. She had, 6 hours all total, but then, once the full contractions came on, the both of them actually birthed the baby within that 2 to 3 hour time frame. So we just had a new birth on, mother being on the program and her new baby welcoming into the world, that beautiful soul. And it's interesting because I had photos taken. Well, photos were sent to me. I didn't take them. They were shared with us with the baby that was just like 3 or 4 days old, full of hair, got a full head of hair, amazing. And then sitting or laying right next to her cousin. All right, so he's a he and she's a she, her cousin, the 3 4 day old baby, sorry, right next to her cousin who's 6 months. And also her mum, his mum, should I say, was also on the program. So there's another generation coming through of the Vital Life energy formulas of regeneration. So there's the stories I wanted to share with today. Now, I'm going to share more about the understanding of the polarity that we are sharing with all of us, and understanding how the body maps itself just as nature does, and it maps itself over and over again. Now, you've heard us talk about the neck and reflecting from the neck, the knees, and also the bowels. So the neck, the top, positive pole, the neutral, the bowels, and then negative at the knees. So anytime we have any pain, not just in the colon, but also we need to balance the neck as well as the knees. If we have any inflammation in our knees, we need to balance not just the knees, but also the colon and the neck. So that's the reason, we're big promoters of all of you with castor oil and using the castor oil packs. But also with the castor oil, it's also we can rub it in, which is just a new treatment that Jeff and Alin shared with me recently, is for those of you, and I know some of you have a difficult time with the packs and the making a mess and getting it on your bedding and getting it on your clothing. And, it's not easy for some of you to do. So one suggestion that Jeff and Alin recommended is that using, after you shower, taking just the castor oil and rubbing it in. So again, as I'm talking, the reflex area and the understanding of the polarity and the polarity energy balancing is actually rubbing it into the back of the neck, rubbing it into the knees if you have any inflammation in your knees. Now, before you towel dry, you've heard us talk about using the olive oil. Well, now I'm talking about from a treatment that Jeff and Alin shared with me to share with you all on using the castor oil after you shower instead of using the olive oil, and taking the castor oil without aloe vera after you've showered, because remember, when you shower, you wash away the positive ions and you bring the negative ions back into the nerve endings. You open up the pores of the skin's breathing. So then you rub the castor oil and the aloe vera in. There was a lady that had some recent tests done, and they were saying that she had lost some bone density in her neck and in her sacrum. So that's one of the treatments we suggested for her to start doing, is after she showers, before she towel dries, is rub the castor oil and rub it into the back of the neck as well as into the lower back. So again, if you're having any inflammation in your neck, you can rub the castor oil, aloe vera in there. Yesterday, we were sharing with another couple in Australia, and they were having a lot of inflammation and pain in their elbows as well as their knees. So as the polarity understanding, the polarity energy that we're talking about it goes neck, knees, bowels, but also the knees and the elbows are a center, just like the umbilicus is the center of the body to the top of the head to the bottom of the feet. The elbow is a center from the center point from the shoulders to the wrists. The knees are a center from the hips to the ankles. So going to the other areas of reflex that I wanted to share about, and that's now the chest, colon, as well as the calves. So positive at the chest, okay? Calves are the negative pole. And then the colon again, all right, okay, at the neutral pole. So again, there's another reflex area. So there was somebody I was sharing with that was having a lot of inflammation, like restless leg and kicking their leg out, and then a lot of pain down in the shins. Now, again, that's an area after you shower, you can rub the castor oil and aloe vera into the shins and run it along the shins. And the reason is like the shins down on the left side in the polarity understanding is the descending side of the bowel. And then on the right side is the ascending. So we got descending on the left, running down the shin bone, and then ascending on the right, coming up the right side. And the calves are a direct reflex to the chest and also the colon. Again, Jevon and Lynn was sharing about using the castor oil, particularly like with, we all get these, the wind and the weather changing, like obviously weather patterns are changing quite rapidly. Sometimes we have 4 seasons in one day, and you get snow, then all of a sudden overnight the snow melts, or we get hailstones here, and then next minute the sun's out. So the weather's kind of all over the place and changing quite rapidly. Now, we all have to stand up to the resistance of gravity, so it does put pressure on our flow of our cerebral spinal flow, pumping up to the resistance of gravity. So one thing to help is rubbing the castor oil after you shower into your throat, into your vocal cords, down your throat. You rub it down your arms and your shoulders and rub it into your thymus gland, because that's the chest reflex that we're just sharing about when it goes the reflex from the chest to your calves, and you can rub it into your calves as well as the colon. The other area to understand and get the depth of understanding of in relationship how the body maps itself, we've now got the occipital at the base of the skull. So the skull, and then there's the occipital. The other reflex to the occipital is actually the coccyx. Just like when a dog gets fearful, you see the dog's tail tucked between its legs. The same thing can happen with our coccyx when we get fearful, is the coccyx then tucks under. So the coccyx bone has to move like a dog's tail wagging. And that wagging of our coccyx is our courage. It's our marching and moving forward. It's our vision into the world. So it goes the back of the occipital down to the coccyx, the tailbone. Our hands and our feet, and I was sharing this with somebody else yesterday about their thumb that was flaring up. And in the understanding, if you put your arms beside your body, it maps your body. Your hands are in line with your reproductive area, your wrist in line with your hips. And of course, the elbow's right there, right where the diaphragm is. So, meaning spleen on the left, elbow to reflex where the spleen is, and the diaphragm and the stomach, digestive tract, and right elbow, gallbladder, liver reflex, right? So nature's remarkable, but the same with the feet and the hands. You are seeing a mapping, just like the feet, you're seeing a mapping of the entire body when you're looking at your feet. As Jeff has always shared, that the feet are a mapping of the brain. When you draw around your feet by putting your feet together, you're looking directly at your brain, which is the reason, reminding you all how important those Epsom salt foot baths. It's very difficult to soak our brain, but we can soak our brain by doing the Epsom salt foot baths. That's a Jefferson one I'm sharing with you all. Okay, so the foot maps the entire body. So ankles, wrists, diaphragm. All right, so again, these are the other areas that reflex each other. The wrists, the ankles, as well as the diaphragm. So the wrist, it's important that we move the hand-eye coordination. It's also, like when we're on our phones and we're texting back and forth, all right, we're looking and we're moving our hands. Any way that we can work on that hand-eye coordination, all right, that's helping the wrist. That's also helping the diaphragm. That's also helping your ankles. There's also that little stretch along the tendon on the bottom of the foot is taking a hard ball or one of those rolling pins that you can get for running along the bottom of the foot and pressing down and just running it along the bottom of the foot to stretch that tendon out that runs along the bottom of the foot from the heel along to the big toe. Now that reflexes directly to your sacrum, because that tendon runs from the groin, following from the sacrum into behind the knee, from the sacrum into the groin to behind the knee to the Achilles that runs along the bottom of the foot. So when you actually run or use a hard ball or a hard, one of those rolling pins that you can get to run along the bottom of the foot, you're also stretching that tendon all the way to your sacrum, and that's also influencing the circulation through the spine all the way up to the back of the occipital, which we were just talking about with the occipital to your coccyx. Any questions that anyone has as I'm sharing the understanding of the polarity right now? The question that I have right now is about a rash that some people are getting on their skin where it looks like, there's like little red welts and like raised bumps, which are like a hive reaction. And in understanding when we get anything like that, we're dealing with the mast cells. And there are a type of white blood cell, mast cells, that are found in connective tissue and also through the body, especially under the skin, near blood vessels and lymph vessels, in nerves, in the lining of the lungs, and in the intestine. Now, these mast cells play an important role in how the immune system responds to certain bacteria, parasites, and they help control other types of immune responses. They contain chemicals such as histamine, cytokines, and growth factors. Now, they release these chemicals during an allergic reaction and certain immune responses. Now, these chemical responses have an effect including widening of the blood vessels, which is, of course, the histamine is what causes the reddening and flushing of the immune response. And obviously that creates heat and red and also itching. If there's actually a high level of mast cell reaction or mast cell response, it can also cause abdominal cramps, muscle pain, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and it can also cause low blood pressure and create like a shock reaction. So mast cells are a very important part of, they're a part of the body's immune system. In the program, a lot of you will see that there is a lot of like the peace and tranquility, the PT formula has the histidine in it. And that histidine uptakes the histamine. So it helps with the mast cells, which are in the lining of the lung, or in the lungs, in the intestine, in the skin, in the connective tissue, near blood vessels, near lymph vessels, in the nerves. So that's the reason that the histidine that's in the PT, it's in the AB, it's in the BC, it's in the CE, it's in a lot of the different formulas. The PT and the AB have the most histidine in it, but it's in a lot of the program to work on the lining of the intestine where the mast cells are, as well as the lungs. And that histidine also activates the tranquil alpha waves of the brain. that histidine is important for both red and white blood cells. So anyone dealing with any sort of inflammation in the joints, there's a lack of histidine, and then the mast cells are over-responding or overreacting to some sort of histamine response that then is causing inflammation in the connective tissue. So the castor oil after you shower, you can do that anywhere. You can put it, on your entire body and then towel dry afterwards. And then that, I know it's less sticky too. There's still going to be a little bit of stickiness, but it's not going to necessarily ruin or, create a lot of problem with the clothing that you put on, which I know can be a concern for everybody, because castor oil is very difficult to remove once you, it's very hard to wash out of your clothing. All right. Okay. So, and out of your bedding. So I understand. We understand. Okay. So we appreciate you all. Those of you coming on right now, as I was sharing the information about the parts of the body that map the different areas, and I'll just remember them. Feel free, if you'd like, to come on and ask a question. For those of you joining on now, you can come on and type in a question, or you can ask a question. We are recording, so as long as you don't mind your voice being recorded, or just type in the Q&A section any questions that you might have. I'm just going to repeat the areas that I was talking about in the understanding of the polarity, energy, balancing that we are sharing with everyone that follows the Vita Life Energy Program. Goes the chest, reflex, chest, colon, calves, knees, neck, bowels, sacrum, occiput, the bottom of the feet, the bottom of the hands because of the lymph, the palms of the hands, the soles of the feet, the lymph, our foot, the entire body, it maps the entire body, ankles, wrists, diaphragm. There's a question come through about doing castor oil packs on the abdominal area and across the chest and doing foot bars, and they've done them 4 nights in a row, and they're experiencing a lot of fatigue, like more than usual. So the question was, is it draining? Is it clearing some toxin out? And the answer is yes, that there's a healing, and that the oil, along with, the 2 areas, because we're dealing with lymph nodes that are in underneath the arm and in the groin, and then the lymph vessels that connect to those lymph nodes that then drain the lymph into the blood vessels to move back into the liver. So there's healing happening, and that's the reason the depth of the pack and what the person's doing is moving any toxin that's in the lymph from the colon and the reproductive area, as well as draining it through the chest to actually move into the lymphatic vessels, into the blood vessels, back into the liver to clear and drain the toxin out, either by bile, so moving it out through the bowel, or through the kidneys to filter it out. So I just was suggesting for the person to take a break, and it's an incredible amount of healing that the person's going through, and to take a break, like a couple of days break of doing the 2 packs, and then go back to doing the 2 areas again and doing 2 days in a row, and then take a day or 2 break. And then if the inflammation that they were experiencing, which is the suggestion of doing those 2 locations with the castor oil packs, has improved, and then they can stop the packs on those 2 areas and then move it to the adrenals or the back of the neck, or just do the abdominal, whatever they feel, or the sacrum, the lower back, whatever they feel to from any sort of inflammation that they might be going through. And so it's definitely an incredible amount of healing, and the depth of the sleep that the person's getting is the body's way of repairing, rebuilding, and yes, clearing and draining any overload of toxin that's in the cells and in the tissue. So just giving the body a break then allows the liver to be able to filter that out, helps the kidneys to flush, as well as the colon to open up and clear any of that toxin as well. I was sharing for those of you that have just come on about another treatment, which you've heard us talk about with the castor oil. Actually, first of all, the showering and then using the olive oil. And I know those of you that have been on the program know about the treatment that came from Sophia Loren. When she would shower, she'd wash away the positive ions and bring the negative ions back in the skin, and then she'd use olive oil, which would retain the moisture and hold on to the negative ions that you get from when you shower. That's the reason you always feel so much better after you shower, because you bring all the negative ions back into the nerve endings. Now, Jeff and Lynn were actually recommending, and I know I'm repeating this on the call right now that's being recorded, I'm repeating it for those just joining the group, in that a new treatment that they recommended is after you shower, instead of using the olive oil, take the castor oil. And take the castor oil and rub it into, if you're having inflammation in your knees, rub it into your knees. Rub it all over your body, your face, your throat, particularly your vocal cords, your thyroid, your neck, your sacrum, your abdomen. Rub it in before you grab your towel and towel dry. So that castor oil, in the castor oil, has the properties of vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin K, and also vitamin E. Now, remember, the sunlight's essential for the liver to produce that vitamin D. The skin absorbs that castor oil and carries that castor oil, just like I was talking about mast cells, which are a particular immune white blood cell, which is in the lining of the skin, as well as in your lymph nodes, carries the castor oil through your skin and carries it directly into your liver, where the liver produces the vitamin D and carries that vitamin D directly to your adrenals as well as your kidneys. Now, this part's so important for us as particularly females, because that is how we absorb our calcium for bones. It's not calcium, it's actually the vitamin D that's essential for us as females to produce the hormone in our kidneys along with our adrenals that stimulates the small intestine for us to absorb the calcium. So it's not about calcium, it's about the vitamin D, it's about the liver using the light from the sun, and also the light in the castor oil, the light in your Epsom salts, the light when you close your eyes and you are still and you breathe and you draw the energy internally up to the consciousness right at the third eye. That is a way you get that light to stimulate your absorption of vitamin D from your liver that holds onto that light and turns it into vitamin D externally, internally, and carries it directly to your adrenals and your kidneys to stimulate and activate the body's ability to assimilate the calcium that we need to move into the bone. So the question, there's another way of doing it too, is using I know with the heat, with the flannel and the heat, because it gets it to penetrate deeper. With, castor oil breaks up adhesions and lesions. It's the power of castor oil, the healing power of castor oil, meaning it's the Palm of Christi is the name of castor oil, which means the palm of Christ. So when you put the flannel, and that's the wool flannel that we highly recommend people use for their packs, the wool flannel has the lanolin, and that gets the oil to penetrate deeper within the cells, deeper within the tissue, and go deeper to wherever you're applying the pack. Using it after the shower, you're going to get that oil to go into your vocal cords and go into your thyroid if you're rubbing it in that area, and into your neck and into your sacrum, wherever you're rubbing it. But it's not going to go as deep when you use the flannel with the oil and the heat. Heat dilates, remember, cold contracts. Well, thank you everyone for being with us today. And we're here always as a support. And we appreciate you all very much. And we give thanks and gratitude every single day to be able to share the Vital Life Energy program with you all. Thank you.